Afternoon everybody. Today we're going to be looking at the cylinder head of a nice little Suzuki in behind me. Cylinder head has already been removed. We've got it here on the bench, and it will just be going through the naming of the parts, what they do, how some parts operate, and how to check certain other parts. Okay, so if I look below, here we go. Here is our cylinder head. We've got our cam sprockets. This is obviously chain driven, not belt driven. It normally gives you a longer life on the chain, gives you a bit more of a warning before they start to pack up, a bit of a rattle noise against the case. You would have a big case, metal case in front here. Okay. We look at the bottom of the cylinder head, where all the party happens. Okay. We've got our exhaust valves, 1, 2. We've got our inlet valves, 1, 2. Then we've got our spark plug in the middle, igniting the fuel. Obviously there's some little bits of remnants of the cylinder head gasket still in place. Okay, this would be scraped off, then it would be cylinders pressure checked and then taken back, flattened, okay, in the machine workshop. We have our waterways. We've also got our oilways in around the head. This supplies the head with coolant and lubrication for the cams and valves for the moving parts. Above here, I shall point out, we've got our cams. Okay, we've got our cam shaft. Here we are, is the lobes, 1 lobe, 2 lobe. Okay, they are in the complete off position when they're pointing directly up. So that means there's going to be a nice big gap down here for me to check with a feeler gauge to see what clearances I've got against those valves. We'll take the camshaft completely out as it's already loose, and we can see the valves, poppet valves, the top part of them. We can see the springs, part of the springs, the collets. Okay, so the main job of the spring is to return the valve closed and to hold it in a closed position until the cams spin over and open the valves back up again. Okay. We've got different types of lifters. So on top of those valves is a bucket. We've got different types of lifter. We've got hydraulic lifters, and on this case we've got shimmed and bucket. So this has got a shim in it inside. It's got a tiny little hole there. Should be able to get a pick in there and just wiggle it out. There we go. So in this case, it's got a nice little shim in there. Looks a little bit like a 2p piece. So when we've put the feeler gauge into the engine, span the cams over to make sure the lobes are fully up, check the gap, and if there's an excessive gap there, that isn't the case when you would either increase the size of that thickness, you'd get a different shim and put it in place, or it's not a big enough gap, and you would get a thinner shim. So looking at the history of the vehicles, and near enough 90% of the vehicles all out there, you tend to have a larger clearance on the exhaust valve than you do on the inlet valve. This is because of the heat. Obviously the exhaust valve is going to be open to more heat, so it lets things expand, and so it's got to have that slightly bigger gap above it when it's cool. Okay. We've got the oilways inside the cam. We'll check here. We've got little holes. All right, that obviously feeds the oil in the bearing caps. So there's all the bearing caps. Okay, it lubricates that as it spins and keeps everything lubricated in place. On this vehicle, the inlet valve, inlet camshaft, sorry, has got a nice little sprocket on the back of it, and that is reacting, that sprocket to sprocket there is going to be reacting to the camshaft sensor just down below it. That will be giving your ignition timing for the spark. Okay. So the reason we're doing this is just to name the parts and go through it. So we've got our cam sprockets. On this vehicle, they're not identical. This side is a variable valve or valve phasing. So this will alter the valve timing, the higher RPM or the more hydraulic pressure that it gets. This is activated by hydraulic pressure through the engine oil. Okay, in down here you can see there's some holes that will send the fluid into the front of the cam and alter the timing on there, either advance it or retard it, depending how much we need or how much the engine wants at the time. Okay, so that will turn independently of the shaft and the cam sprockets, okay, and it'll alter the valve opening and closing either for a longer period, shorter period, and give it more oomph if required. So all of these will all need to be timed up. We have got markings on them, top and bottom, to make sure the valve timing is in cahoots or in sync with the piston timing on the engine. Alright, so that is as far as it goes with the cylinder head. We could carry out more in-depth checks when you get it skimmed and pressure tested, but sadly I don't have the manufacturing process to do that here. That is down at a machine workshop to be done. Thank you very much.